In this guide, we'll show you how to access and adjust the set combustion settings on your Comfortbilt pellet stove. These settings allow you to fine-tune your stove for optimal performance, whether you're looking to lean out the fire for more air, reduce fuel consumption, or modify the stove's heat output. Step 1. Ensure the stove is powered on and displaying the home screen. It does not matter whether the stove is currently running or not. As long as the screen is lit, you can follow these steps. First, press and hold the Enter button, which is this left arrow, until the Set Data menu appears on the screen. Now, use the arrow buttons to scroll down to option number 3, Set Combustion, then press Enter again. Use the following sequence to unlock and enter this menu using the arrow buttons. Press the up arrow, then press the down arrow. Now press the up arrow twice. Then press down arrow, and then finally up arrow again. This should access the menu. Once in, you will see heating levels labeled H1 through H5 and ignition levels labeled IG1 through IG3. Heating levels control the fire's burn characteristics for different heat outputs. For instance, changing the H1 settings will only change the stove's heat level 1, also known as low or 1 bar setting. Ignition levels relate to the stove's startup phase. Unlike the heating levels, the stove uses all 3 of the ignition levels every time the stove ignites. These are just different phases of that process. For instance, IG1 is the initial pellet feed phase to prime the burn pot while the igniter gets warmed up. IG2 is the heat transfer phase, and it is during this phase that the fire usually establishes. You usually want to have a slow trickle of feeding on this level, but not too much that it snuffs out the small fire. IG3 is the holding pattern phase. It keeps the fire fed and growing until the internal heat reaches the threshold for it to enter the heating phase. You can scroll through each of these combustion levels by using the up and down arrow buttons. Once you navigate to the desired heating or ignition page you wish to change, simply press the Enter button to lock in the page so that you can start to edit the metrics below. Each page or level will display 3 editable metrics: feed rate, which controls the pellet delivery; exhaust voltage, which controls the airflow or air pressure for combustion; and blower voltage, which controls the hot air distribution into the room. Feed rate is displayed as on-off cycles. Every 10 points equals 1 second of timing. For example, a level that is set to an on of 10 and an off of 40 would mean that pellets are fed for 1 second, then paused for 4 seconds, before feeding again. This on and off cycle continues throughout the operation, except when the stove enters a cleaning phase where the feeding is paused, but that is located in another menu and will be covered later in the video. Exhaust voltage controls the speed of the exhaust fan. The higher the voltage, the faster the fan spins, and the more air that is pulled through the system. This voltage ranges from 80 volts at the lowest all the way up to the maximum of 150 volts. This is typically tied to the feed rate, as you want to maintain a balance of fuel to air for proper combustion. A good rule of thumb is this: if pellets are shooting out of the burn pot like an active volcano or popcorn machine, the exhaust voltage is probably too high and needs to be decreased. If the fire is lazy or a darker red or orange color, then the exhaust voltage is probably too low and needs to be increased. Blower voltage only affects how forcefully the hot air distribution is out of the front of the unit and does not really affect the combustion or fire pattern. Like the exhaust voltage, blower voltages can be set on a range from 80 volts on the low side up to 115 volts on the high side. A good rule of thumb for altering the blower voltage is this: if the sound level is not at a pitch or frequency that is unpleasant, try to keep it as high as possible. I would recommend always keeping your higher levels, such as H4 and H5, at the maximum of 115 volts for the maximum CFM and heat output potential. This fan is also important for keeping the stove from overheating. If you have frequent or occasional high temperature alerts, increasing the blower voltages on all levels may help. Once the page is locked in, you will see a cursor arrow appear to the left of the 3 metrics. It will start at pointing at number 1, feed rate. You can use the up and down arrow buttons to move this cursor between the 3 metrics. Just note, that if you press the up arrow while pointing at number 1, it will highlight the combustion level at the top, and you will need to press Enter to lock in this page again and bring the cursor arrow back down to these options. Now, just navigate the cursor to the metric you wish to change and press Enter again. The number to the right will highlight. Pressing the up and down arrow buttons will change this number. Set it to the desired value, and then press Enter button again to lock it in. Once locked in, the cursor arrow will be movable again. For all the values you wish to change, just use this same method of pressing Enter to highlight, up and down to make changes, and then Enter again to lock in your changes. Once you've adjusted all the settings to your preferences or the suggested settings provided by a technician, exit the menu by pressing the Exit button to return to the previous menu. Your stove will now operate with the updated combustion settings. Be aware, the menu will also time out and return to the home screen if no buttons are pressed for several seconds. As long as the changes were locked in and not in the process of being changed or highlighted, those settings will be saved. The ash cleaning settings, as mentioned before, are located on option number 4 of the Set Data menu. Scroll to 4 and press Enter to access this menu. Once in, you will see the familiar combustion levels at the top right, H1 through H5. Same as the combustion menu, each of these levels can be changed independently. Note, there are a few programs out there where this menu looks different. I would consult a technician if changes need to be made for those models. To navigate to the different combustion levels, you first need to select the level at the top by pressing the Enter button. This will highlight the level, H1 for instance, so that you can then change it by pressing the up or down arrow buttons. Pressing Enter again will select and lock in this page. Once the page has been selected, you will see a number of metrics: time span, duration, and smart ash cleaning. Time span is the length of time the stove will run in between cleaning cycles. For example, a time span of 30 minutes will mean the stove will enter a cleaning phase once every 30 minutes or twice per hour. Duration is the length of time that the cleaning phase will last. For example, a duration of 12 seconds means that when the stove enters a cleaning phase, the auger will pause for 12 seconds to allow the burn pot to self-clean, using the air pressure from below. Smart ash cleaning is an option that allows the stove to set those cleaning intervals. When you turn this option on, you will be given 3 sub-options: light, medium, and heavy. Even though the name implies some form of intelligence or pot monitoring, it is really just preset numbers for each setting. I personally prefer to set my own numbers or follow a technician chart. You can feel free to experiment with these options if you wish. Some of these options are mutually exclusive. For example, the metrics for time span and duration will gray out or disappear if you have the option for smart ash cleaning set for on. Use the up and down arrows to navigate to the metric you wish to change, and then press Enter to highlight it. Just like the previous menu, once highlighted, you can use the up and down arrows to change the values, and then press Enter again to lock it in. Repeat these steps for every page and/or metric you wish to alter. I'm going to end this video with sets of recommended metrics for each Comfortbilt stove model currently on the market. Feel free to pause the video for your stove model.